Hey guys, my name is xOctoManx and this is a tutorial about physical based dice rolling. So when you have some kind of board games or something like that, then you need some dice, like for a Ludo or a Monopoly, whatever you call it. For all the kind of board games, you're gonna need a six-sided dice, and I will show you in this tutorial how you can create one without any problems with, almost no errors, like when this dice is going to land on the side or something, or just in a 45-degree angle. This is just something we're gonna take care of in this tutorial as well. And if you don't like to see the complete video or want to just go and save time, you can always go to my website xoctomangames.com/shop, and you're able to download the complete package as it is for Unity 5.6. 0.2f1 as the one will I just create in here. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you need, of course, is a dice. You can create a cube and put some graphics on it, or you can just model your own. I have modeled mine already and I will just import it. So I just drag in an FBX file in here, which is also containing a little map where all the dots are going to be on it. This will also be implemented in the package you are able to download from my website. So, and in here we're gonna have a dice diffuse material and of course a dice map, and in here we're gonna have the dice itself. So it's just a rounded box basically with some dots on the correct sides. And what we're gonna do is, of course, we need to put this one into our scene and set this one up. It might happen that the pivot point is not directly in the center, but actually it doesn't really matter. Even later on, it doesn't really matter where the pivot point is. What you might want to go and get into is the material itself, the dice diffuse material, and put up the albedo channel to full white. If you're using this one from my website, well, then feel free to do so, but you also don't have to go and do coding because everything is coded already inside. So what does the dice makes a dice? At first we need some kind of physical stuff, like for example a box collider, or in my case I would use a mesh collider. And also what I need to do for the mesh collider, I need to make sure that I check convex. So as you can see, when I just disable the mesh renderer, this is going to be the complete convex mesh collider, and this is what we are going to use as collision object. What we also need is, since I will use gravity, I also need a rigid body component on my dice, and I will enable gravity and maybe give the dice a mass of 2 or maybe 3. So and at the moment it is about 50 centimeters big, so half a unit or half a unity unit. So this is always according to how you want this. More mass you're gonna have in here, the faster they are, for example, falling down or something like that. The next thing we need is a physical material, since we want to bounce from the ground and give them some something bounciness actually. So what we go is we say create new physical material, and you can name this one just maybe bounce something, bounce material, it doesn't matter. So now on the dice we want to drag the bounce material inside the mesh collider material part in here. So we're gonna have this one added to our mesh collider, so in this case to our dice. What we also want to do is we want to manipulate this material a bit. What we want to get rid of is friction. We don't want to have friction, we want to have them as slippy as possible and a bounciness of 1. The other two things you don't actually have to get into. Okay, so now we need something where we want to put or actually throw our dice into, and this is pretty quickly done as well. We just create a cube, a plane or whatever, but the best thing in this case is going to be a cube as a ground, because we need some, let's say, density. A plane might not 100% work because it just has no volume in this particular case. So maybe you want to take care of that you use this one. I maybe create a 5x5 scaled one and maybe scale the y-axis a bit down to maybe 0.5 or something. It doesn't actually matter where it is, how big it is, but at least something needs to be here, so we can later on check for all the collisions as well. What you now can do is you can already put this dice up a bit, and actually you can also already test how the dice is going to match when you're starting the game or whatever. So when this is falling down, as you can see, it's rather bouncy, but since it is going down, well, unrotated, it will not just flip over some sides. But as you can see, the bounciness is pretty much okayish for the moment with the amount of 1. If you want to have more, of course, feel free to do so and add some. So our cube is going to be needing a tag, and this tag is going to be, let's say, dice ground or just ground or any tag we later on can remember. So I can also rename the cube itself as ground if I like to, and I want to add the tag I just created beforehand. And what I now want to have is some walls which are big enough so the dice are not all able to leave this particular area. And here, let's say you have 20 dice later on inside, or even 6 maybe. You don't want to want them to leave the place. What you can do is you can actually create another extra box, or quad, whatever, a cube. We can scale the Y value to I don't know, maybe 5. So it's rather high, so it's not able, or the dice is not able to leave. And maybe we make this one a bit thinner on the Z axis, so maybe just half of it, and X can be just 5 as well. And if that is too thick for you, you can always go in and reduce the Z axis to 0.2. It still is good enough. You can also go and be as picky as you like with that cube. It's just going to be a wall for our cube in here. So for our ground, so the dice is once again not leaving or able to leave that. So I duplicate this one by holding down Control D, and now I do a snapped rotation of 45 degrees and put this one on the back side of our let's say throwing area. Gonna duplicate this once again, put this on the other side, and of course take this one, duplicate that, and bring this onto the right side as well. You can once again always work with snap if you like to. If not, well, then just don't. Okay, so far so good. What I also want to do is those 4 cubes, I want to rename them to walls, and I make them child of the ground, so they are indirectly, or that they are just connected to the ground, so I can easily take the ground and place it wherever I want, including the dice later on. And the last thing on here is I want to actually get rid of the mesh renderer of this walls. So when we are dicing and we have some weird camera angles or something like that, doesn't matter for us, since we are able still to look through the walls, so we don't have to take care of the camera is maybe not seeing the dice or whatever. We don't actually care about this. Okay, once we are done with that, we already start with coding. And coding is going to be a pretty heavy one in this particular case, but I want to, I will go through that as precise as possible. At first I need a dice script as a C# script, so just create one and put this one directly onto the dice. But before we can actually go forward, we need to do some more things to prepare the dice to work 100% later on. So when you right click the dice and create a new sphere, you're gonna see, of course, it is going to start where the pivot point is. What you want to do is you might want to reduce the size to just a bit, like 0.2 in all 3 axes. That is this is big enough to do our measurements. Also, what you want to do is you want to place this one a bit inside, so just a little bit on here on this side is going to look through the dice mesh. Also, you want to make sure that this is a trigger collider, and you want to disable the mesh renderer. So this is our dice side for the number 4. What you can do is you can rename this one already to 4. It's just for you. We will do that now for all the other 6 or 5 sides once again. So duplicate number 4, put this onto the other side. You don't have to be too precise, but just make sure it's not too much on the other side. And we're gonna put a name of 3 here. Now we're gonna duplicate this once again, bring this into the center of the dice, or trying to bring this to the center anyhow. And you can always go and use the numbers in here, so 0.25 something, and that should be almost in the center. Also bring this one once again a bit down so it's not sticking out too much because it needs to be just a rather small amount in here. Then for the other one, to just duplicate and bring this to the other side. Once again, you can always go and use the snapping stuff. This is side number 5. The other one has been number 2, so I just rename this to number 2. And the last two are the number 1 and number 6. So I duplicate this one, bring this one all over here, bring this down as well. So I maybe have something on number 0. So I match this one as well. And as you can see here, maybe on the x-axis, we're gonna put 0.25 as well. So we are on this side. And there's just this one in here, needs to be 0.25, at least for me as well. So I'm gonna hit the center and of course bring this one a bit more in, duplicate it and put this on the other side as well. And now we go. So this is just representing number 6. So I rename this to 6. And this is going to be number 1. So I rename this one to number 1. Since we are almost done with the dice, we can already create a prefab. If you like to create or you already have one, is a prefabs folder. So just folder prefabs and drag the dice as it is into the prefabs folder. So you will see something like that. So it is correct that it is looking like this. Once again, the mesh renderer on all the dice sides 4 to or actually 1 to 6 are just visible in this little dice preview, but we don't care about that at the moment since it doesn't matter for us. Okay, so now we have the dice basically done. We just need to go into coding and later on add some more stuff to the sides where all the let's say fun part is going to happen. So open up a MonoDevelop or Visual Studio, whatever you like and please, and open the dice script in here so we can actually get into coding. Once MonoDevelop is open, we actually can get rid of start and update, at least for the moment, and we can put in some informations we need for our specific dice. So the first one is we need a connection to our rigid body. We just connected to it because we want to measure velocity on that rigid body. So we say rigid body, I just call it RB for rigid body. Next one is we need some bools. So the first bool is going to measure if our dice already has landed. You can always, once again, name your stuff as you like and please. And of course, we want to know if we have thrown our dice already. So we have to measure several things later on. Also, what we want to catch at the very beginning, that's maybe where we are going to use a start for, is a vector 3, and I call this one just initial position or init position or in a pause, it doesn't matter. We fill in the initial position where we start rolling or actually throwing our dice from. So later on we're gonna be able to reset the dice to this initial position and we can throw once again. Also, we have later on some dice sides. We don't go into that at the moment, but we will do we'll do later. And we want to have a value of the dice. So the dice we have thrown has a value like some number between 1 and 6. Okay, so this value will be later on automatically be filled. It doesn't necessarily need to be public. We can protect this and of course just put a getter or something for this integer if we need that anyhow. But being public is easy for us to actually check out if everything is working or not. Okay, so since I deleted the start method, I will just create a new one here. So we put 3 things inside. So the first one is we want to make sure that we are getting the component of the rigid body. So we said RB is going to be equal to get component, and in open close triangle brackets we just say rigid body, open close parentheses behind that, and close the line with a semicolon. Also, I want to make sure that the initial position is going to be set. So I say init position is going to be equal to transformed position. So I store the current transformed position into init position, which is of type vector 3. Again, the last one is we want to make sure that the gravity is set to be false. So this on start, it is not automatically falling down. So we have the possibility to use the gravity on our own whenever we want, and not how the rigid body wants. So we say rb.useGravity is going to be equal to false. Okay, that's it for the initial part. Now we have we want to have an input. There are several possibilities. You may not want to use it in update because if you have just a specific button in your game, for example, you don't necessarily need update because you don't need to wait for this particular input. But when we are using keys like the space key or any other key, or yeah, we want to make sure that it is an update. Otherwise, it's not noticed that we have pressed that particular button. So what we do is we say if input.getKeyDown, so just an usual one, and we want to wait for, let's say, the key code r.space. So when we are pressing the space button, we want to roll our dice. So I create a new function, and here it's going to be, I will just do this in just a moment. Now I want to roll a dice. So this function is the one we now create. So we say void roll dice and open close curly braces as well. So we now are able to call this function whenever we are pressing the space bar. So and this function, the roll dice functionality in here is rather simple. At first we want to know if we have thrown our dice already, and we want to know if it has landed already. So that's what we want to do at first. So we can only roll a dice if it is thrown already and if it has landed already. So if not thrown, not throw but thrown, and not has landed, so it has not landed yet and it hasn't been thrown, there's later on something we need to do in here as well when it comes to multiple dice. Then what we want to do is we want to set thrown to be throw. So thrown equals throw. So we know, okay, we now set the one to throw. We want to activate the gravity of the dice. So we set rb.useGravity is going to be equal to throw. And the next one is we want to add some kind of push to our dice. So it is not staying that straight and falling just down. We want to add a torque. So what we put in is rb.addTorque. As you can see, it is over here. We can add some random values on a vector array. So what we do is we just create a random dot range. So we put in just a random number on the x, y, and z axis. So, and I just say between 0, comma, and maybe 500. Then I say a comma behind that, and since we also want to put in the torque, our random.range stuff in x and in y and the z axis, I'm gonna just copy and paste that stuff all over here. Okay. And of course, get rid of the last comma in here because we don't need it, and end the line with a semicolon. So we're gonna add a torque, and we put the dice down. It is falling down, and yeah, it will be released in its gravity. So that's what we want to test at first now. So we go back to Unity. There shouldn't be any problem with the dice, and if there is, we take care of it. Get button down as a string. Okay, so it's not get button down but get key down. I'm sorry for this. So we want to have a key down with a key code space, and now the error should be gone in a moment. There we go. We can clean it, and when we now press play, and once I start to hit the space bar, as you can see, it is automatically rotating a bit. And it is just doing all that stuff, like it giving us a 1. When I do that once again, I once again add a torque. As you can see, since it's a physical, it will just give us any other random number on the dice. So far so good. We are able to roll the dice down, but also there are several problems we need to take care of. At first, we need a new function where we want to make sure when we are pressing the space bar once again over and our turn is over, we are able to reset the dice to its original position and set some other values as well. So we create a new void reset, and also in roll dice, we want to have another else if statement. And this else if statement is if we have thrown this one already and we have landed already, then we are able to reset when we are calling roll dice. That means we say if thrown and has landed, then we are able to re-roll the dice, or actually just pick it up and do all of that stuff which is in the reset function. In this case, we just call reset, open close parentheses, and close the line with a semicolon. Next one is, since we reset everything, we just put its transform.position to its initial position. Since we already have catched this one, we're gonna be able to put this just back where it came from. But it doesn't rotate it to its original rotation because we don't need to. What we also want to make sure is that we set thrown to be false. Thrown equals false. The next one is we want to say has landed is equal to false because it has not landed anymore. We want to deactivate the gravity, so rb.useGravity equal to false as well. And that's for the moment it's going to be it. That means when we now roll the dice once and hit the spacebar once again, we're gonna reset the dice to its original position where it came from. And we'll also make sure that we are able to re-roll the dice. Once it has landed, we should be able to do the stuff once again. But since we have not yet actually checked for has landed, we need to do a check for this. So we know, okay, this dice has landed because we are requesting it. And how can we do that? Actually, that is where our update loop once again has to come in place, because that is what we are needing, or what we need to check, well, basically the whole time. So what we want to request is if RB, so if the rigid body is sleeping, that means it is not moving in any case, in any way. We need to open close parentheses, and it has not landed, so not has landed, but already has been thrown. We want to say that it has landed. So we say has landed is going to be equal to throw. And also we can set everything else what we don't want to use from this point on. The first one is we can say rb.useGravity is going to be equal to false, so we don't need to do that anymore. It's just lying on the ground. Of course, later on we do some other things. And of course, we want to do the value check for our sides. But also, if that is not the case, so else if the case is we are rb.sleeping, so rb.is sleeping when it is already on the ground and not moving anymore anyhow, and already has landed, and its value is going to be equal to 0. Then we want to re-roll the dice, because we have no connection, or actually we are not able to get the dice value back, because the dice has not landed correctly. So if the dice value is going to be 0, but it has landed already and it is not, or it is sleeping already, then we want to make sure that we re-roll the dice. So we just call a new function we just create in a moment. I call this one just roll again. And rolling again is basically doing everything which it is doing in our roll dice functionality. And to create this, of course, we can just easily put a new function in here, void roll again. What we do is at first we reset the dice. So reset, open close parentheses, and end the line with a semicolon. And after we have reset it, we do everything we are doing in here in rolling dice. So just copy the 3 lines in that particular if statement. We'll put that in here. So we reset the dice, we set thrown to be true, use gravity to be true, and we're gonna add a torque. So the dice will now automatically re-roll when it has landed wrongly, or we don't get anything back. So once again, what we do is we need to check our sides. So which side has landed on the ground? So we call or create a new function called side value check. You can name this once again however you like. Open close parentheses, and then curly braces. We're gonna start to set at first the dice value is going to be equal to 0. And the next one is for each dice side we want to measure some things. But before we can do this, we need to create a dice sides script. So what we do is, at first, don't forget to save. You shouldn't get any problems with the script, and Unity shouldn't do anything wrong with you, or you shouldn't get any errors, just some warnings maybe. So what we want to do is we want to create a new C# script, and we call this one just dice side. This is representing one side of the dice. And also what we want to do is all those numbers in here, our spheres or sphere colliders, which are all triggers, all of them need the dice side. So just put the dice side script directly on all those 6 sides in here. If you have an 8 or 10 sided dice, of course use this one instead. Okay, so what we want to do is we don't need start, we don't need update for the dice side. We just take care of the collisions. At first we want to have a bool and call this one maybe on ground. So is that on the ground or not? Also, we want to have a side value, which we are setting public, because we want to set them by hand in the inspector in just a moment. Side value. And we create 2 trigger functions and 1 bool request for later on. But first we want to trigger some stuff. At first we want to create a void on trigger stay, open close parentheses, and inside the parentheses we're gonna put collider, call it call or whatever you like. And now we want to request if we are on the ground or not. So how do we do that? We say if open close parentheses and inside call dot tag, so the tag we are colliding with, equals ground, the tag we already created in the beginning for our ground in our dice rolling area. If that is the case, we want to set on ground is going to be equal to true. And also we can debug that one later on if we like to. We don't need to, since everything is working properly. I hope so on your side as well. So the second function we need is on trigger exit. So when we are exiting the ground, basically. Also we use a collider and call it call. So, and of course the same stuff is going to happen as well. So if call.tag equals the name ground, or the tag ground in this particular case, then we want to say on ground is going to be equal to false, because we are not grounded anymore. Don't forget to save. Now we go to all the sides and put in all the side values. I must have a body because it is not marked as extracted. Let's see. Oh, there's a little typo in here. I just need to make sure that there's no open close parentheses behind that. Okay, so this is how you get rid of the error. You will just get the warning, so there's a private tool which we haven't used yet. So what we do is we go to site 4. As you can see, when we are landing now on site 4, means it is on the bottom. The site number 3 is going to looking and to the top. What does it mean? The site value of number 4 represents number 3. So you have to put the site value 3 in here. Same for 3. If 3 is bottom, 4 is going to be top. So this site value is going to be 4. I hope that's not too confusing for you. If it is, just question or request this once again, or just write me a comment or whatever. So when we are landing on site 2, site 5 is going to be the value we are after. For 5 the same, so 5 is bottom, the 2 is going to be up. Same for 1, the 1 needs to be a 6, and the site 6 is going to have a site value of 1. And that should be it. We don't forget to save the scene if you need to. Just put this one into a demo or something like that. And of course, apply the changes to the prefab. So now you can see also our dice script can later on just request the dice value. And how do we do that? We need a connection to all of that 6 sides now in our dice script. And how can we do that? Is pretty simple. We just create an array of dice sites and put in all the scripts we need, or actually the game objects which are holding the dice sites. This needs to be public, otherwise we are not able to drag them in. We could also make this one private and loop through all the child objects and add them to the list. That's up to you. So what you say is public dice site, open close the angled brackets in here, square brackets, since we are using an array, and we call this one just dice sites. Now we are able to put those dice sites, so all our 6 sites, into that array, and we can create a function which is checking all the scripts what the values are, and if there is a value, and if there is not a value, we can just go back. So, and of course roll again because there's no value. So our site value check function is now resetting the dice value at first to 0. Now we loop through with a for each loop. So we say for each, open close parentheses, dice site. So we request a specific script. We call it site in dice sites, which is our array we just created 1 minute ago. Open close curly braces, in here we want to request if the site is on the ground or if any site is on the ground. Otherwise we don't want to we don't want to have any requests. So if site dot on ground, and since we have no connection to the on ground bool in here, we create a little helper function for this because we don't need this to be public in this case. What we can do is we can just create a new public bool, and we can just call this one on ground, for example. Open close parentheses, make sure it's not written the same as here, just to not confuse yourself. And what we want to do is in here we just want to return the bool value, and the bool value is going to be on ground with the small o. Okay, so we can now directly request on ground and we will get the result of on ground. So if it is in the trigger or even not. So what we do is if site dot on ground with a big O is a function, so we need to open close parentheses. If that is the case, or in this particular case returning true, we can do several things. At first we can read the dice value. So dice value is going to be equal to site dot dice value, or in this case site value. The next one is we can debug this one if we like to. So we can say debug.log. It's just for the purpose of getting stuff right. We say dice value plus, and then we're gonna put something into strings like has been rolled. So we know what the dice value is we have been rolled in here. And also we can later on put this one into any game object or pass this into your game manager or whatever you need. So you're gonna have the dice value directly on the dice, and you can return or bring this at this position to any point in the game you like what was the last dice, or you can add multiple dice together. So when we're now saving everything and we're gonna do our test in here, we should be able to roll a dice, or roll it at least once when we are pressing space, and we should get a value back. But somehow it is not, well, as you can see, we currently re-roll the dice the whole time because the dice value is always set to be 0. And that is happening because we are not checking the site value. So we need to call site value check whenever we are done with throwing the dice. In this case, if we are on the ground, if we not have landed and thrown, we do the site value check. So if RB is sleeping, not has landed, but has been thrown, we'll do the site value check. So let's see if that is working now. Don't forget to save. We have to put in all the dice sites into the dice sites list. So what we can do is we just select the dice, go to the top right corner and enable that lock symbol. Now we can select all those 6 sites and drag them directly into the 6 sites array in here. Don't forget to disable that lock symbol once again. And now let's see what's happening when we're trying this one out. We press space. And we get a 2 has been rolled. We can now press again. We can also clear the console, roll again, and a 3 has been rolled now. We can do that now several times. A 4 has been rolled. And so on and so forth. And the cool thing is we now can do that with several different dice. We just need to make sure we put them, let's say, not too close together, maybe just keep some space in between, and also make sure they're not landing into the wall colliders when you are doing so. And we should get like everything from all that dice back into the console. And when one is not landing correctly, it should automatically update itself just by popping itself up. What you also can now see is some slippery in here and also some dragging around. What I want you to do is, of course, we're gonna use kinematics when we are not doing anything anymore, like because we disable the gravity. But what we also want to do is we want to disable, or in this particular case enable, kinematic. So the dice, after it has been landed, will not move away from the point it has been. So every new dice, or every dice is going to collide in it, is not changing the value because it's not pushing it far away or something like that. So that's what we can do with all the components, or actually for the rigid body in this case. So we say rb.isKinematic, and what we can do is we can set this one to be kinematic, so it's not affected by physics anymore. But since it is a rigid body and since it is a collider, not a trigger, nothing is slipping through. On reset, we also need to take care of the is kinematic, so because we want to make sure that it is kinematic once again, or is not in this case. So if we are resetting, we set rb.isKinematic is going to be equal to false, and that's it. So don't forget to save the script, and let's go back to Unity and see what's happening and if they are sliding around like they have done before. As you can see now, they're gonna be rolled. We had 2 1s and 2 5s and so on and so forth. And once one die or one dice is landing on the side, for example, or there's a weird angle, then it will automatically re-roll itself. That's it for the moment. If you have any question, of course, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this, rather long tutorial, but I hope you learned something as well. Give me a like if you do so, and see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumbs this video up if you like it, and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.